To the audible angle, it has recently come to my attention. I am a little scruffy on the facial hair. It's the first time I've seen myself in over 5 or 6 days during our little episode hiatus. We got a little legal matter to address right off the bat, and we're choosing not to tiptoe around this legal matter. As many of you know, if you recall our last episode, there were some bad NCAA tournament takes on the show, and due to that, we did suspend Druzy 1 week without pay, which was met with a legal suit. So we were in court battling all week. As we all remember, Druzy was basically the source of Urban's folly on the Cougars. You guys you think it's a joke on the show. You should hear Druzy hype Cougars. And that led Irby astray, and Druzy wasn't taking responsibility, so he said, boom, no pay for a week. How's that for responsibility? But we're back, baby. Irby, any thoughts, quick thoughts on just the Druzy situation? Is he going to be able to come back on the program, or is he limited to just certain topics, or what's it look like going forward?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, there's some precedents there, right? I mean, there are some people that can get back in good graces. The Green Bay Packers, for example, they did welcome eventually Brett Favre back, right? Like there was a moment there where you didn't think there was any coming back from that. And I think the Packer Nation has warmed back up to A-Rod after he left. I mean, there's a lot of us that cheer for him. So there's a precedence that there can be a affiliation, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I'll be honest, there's a lot of, I don't know if I would go so far as he needs professional help, but there has to be some bended knee stuff. So I think there's, if he's willing to put the work in with you and I can forget about an Iowa State. I can forget about a Michigan State. I can forget about his intense push for Arizona to lose. I mean, and quite possibly after a duration of time, which is indeterminate, to be honest, the Houston folly, as you said, it's going to take some time, but I think there's a path forward, but it's going to take a lot of work from one person, and I think he knows who that is.
I mean, that'd be a real Cougar redemption story. And if you guys didn't know, two things. We got a super chat that just came in asking, is this just a cover story so you could get rid of his awful volume 700 blasting in my eardrums? Thanks, Frederick Armenstein 77. We appreciate the feedback. Believe me, we're aware of the audio undulations from time to time, and we're working on that. But it would be a real Cougar redemption story. I think the thing that sticks with me most about, Druzy's folly is really, we had it called right on the SEC being not a good conference. And then he comes in just hardcore. And I mentioned the chat because we do have a studio chat going at the time. So he wasn't saying this vocally, but he was just berating us in the chat saying, it's Texas, it's Arkansas, these are slam dunks. What are you even thinking about? They're meeting in the Elite Eight, and we're like, man, it seems biased because those were our Calcutta teams, and he just, it was almost just to get him to stop. So then we picked, okay, yeah, Arkansas is going to beat Arizona, and Texas is going to beat the wily veteran at point guard in Purdue. I mean, that's all Druzy.
Yeah, and Drew, at the end of the day, my final statement is you're welcome, Druzy, that we didn't bring in Shapiro and the likes to be our representation. We brought in the B team because we do actually like you. We don't like what you did to us, but that's a good faith gesture. That is an olive branch gesture that we don't bring the big guns. So good luck to you, son. Good luck.
Yeah. We just pulled the Legal Shield prepaid legal card out of our wallets. Just, whatever guy was closest to you and part of Legal Shield. And, he said, he didn't say you shit your pants, but he said it looked a little messy downstairs, so to speak, when our representation showed up with the cease and desist and, all the other parameters that we laid on you. It's probably time to move forward. And we're going to try to redeem ourselves with NCAA information. And what we have coming down the pipe is a team we liked and really stood for. A lot of people didn't think they were good this year, didn't play enough competition throughout the year. Yukon, a team we supported, is facing Illinois in what can only be considered an exciting matchup. The first game up on Saturday, 6:09 p.m. Looks like it's on TBS. Irby, how surprised are you that this is Yukon, Illinois?
I'll be honest, I am absolutely shocked in the Yukon Huskies being in this game, but not shocked enough not to pick them in my brackets. I'm sitting squarely in second place, Dilly, in one of my brackets with all four teams, which is evidence. That is Exhibit A in our evidence statement that, Jersey, here's what I put on paper outside of you. But you pushed me into these bad decisions. I had Yukon, I had Illinois, I had Michigan, and I had Arizona. Specifically with Yukon, Dilly, everybody knows the stat by now because we're 5 days into the week. Yukon has been to the Final Four three of the last 4 days or 4 years. How are you cheering against them? How are you doubting them? How are you not putting Danny Hurley and his great free throw left-handed stroke into the Final Four? You had to go there. And let's be honest, how do you cheer against a team like Illinois, who's the biggest team in the country? And we've all year, Dilly, we've been on the big dudes. And that's
a fact. That's a big dude fact. And we want to script a little bit there. We'd be remiss if we didn't address how Yukon got there, taking down Duke in somewhat of an all-time folly. What do you think of that? Would Mike Krzyzewski, would he have had that press break lined out a little better? We're just running the clock and taking fouls, boys, or is that just a young guy, exuberant, trying to make the right play?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the coaching because I do think that last play is quite arguably on John Shire. Like, that is on the head coach because those kids were not ready or prepared for the last 10 seconds, and they should have been. It was coming out of a timeout. You knew the situation. That should be laid out clearly now. Easy, you Duke finalists. I get it, right? Maybe the coach did. So there is something to this, Dilly, and this is kind of where college basketball, I'm going to do a big picture look here. This is where college basketball is. That mistake was made by a 19-year-old kid who probably wasn't in a whole lot of those situations, in high-risk situations like that, on a big stage as that. Prior to that, he was on a great team. His last name is Boozer. He got things silver spoon. I don't care what you say, folks. It's a silver spoon, and he wasn't tested. He pissed down his leg, Dilly. There's no other way to look there. He panicked, and he passed the ball when all he had to do was dribble around the guy. They were sold out to get a steal that should have been communicated in the huddle prior to that play. If it wasn't listened to. And that's a problem, and ultimately John Shire should be there, and he should bear that weight. Frankly, in the post-game stuff, Dilly, I only saw the weight bared by the players, and they were upset in that locker room. Don't like Duke. I've never been a Duke fan, have not been a Duke fan since Christian Laettner broke Kentucky's heart in the late 80s. But there was a lot of time there that I thought John Shire should have taken credit or said it's on me, as other coaches have done. It's a bad move by a young player, and frankly, the guy from Purdue probably wouldn't have made that mistake.
Whoa. Yeah, it's one of those things, and, it's not even to speak any ill will towards the Boozer brothers, but, we got two guys probably playing on the same youth teams. I'm assuming, catch me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm guessing they're on the same AAU team. They were probably Studley. We talked about the conference and their strength of schedule, very tough. Virginia, was a tough matchup in their conference. That's a 25-point win, 26-point win. They didn't have enough of the battles, like you said, to have the experience of, look, Yukon has to sell out for the steal. We're in a tight game, seconds winding down. You got to sell out for the steal and then foul. That's all they're going to do. We don't need to get the ball up the court. We don't need to get a 2-on-1 fast break bucket. We don't even want to score. All we have to do is basically nothing. They're going to give us a free throw. We have to inbound the ball, and they did that. And then the next thing is they're going to follow you. And if that's, the second close game they had all year, the guy doesn't have pressure reps like he would in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Dilly, it was, 10.1 seconds left, I believe. There was a little bit more than 10, so you can't just throw it in and hold the ball. But you could throw it in and hold the ball. Like, you could do that. It's technically there's 0.1 seconds on the clock, which is a tip at best. You have the AP National Player of the Year who's 7 feet tall. You would think that you would be able to make that stop. Hold on to the ball. Like, that's John Shire. It's on you. It's like, you don't have to cross half court. You do not have to. You pass the ball 3 times. And the only thing, Dilly, to your point, that you could not do is turn the damn ball over. Don't turn it over. I mean, Bob Knight is turning around in his grave being like, what are you doing? I saw a proverbial chair thrown across the court being like, this is blasphemy. Just a joke. And UConn, this is my one moment I'm going to tell you, Dilly, you got to hand it to UConn. They didn't quit. That game was in hand. It was 19 points. Danny Hurley's doing something right because the guys play for him. They want to play for him. They didn't quit. They won the game.
We might have to stow that away next year when we worry about their conference competition and whether or not they're ready. I mean, it'll be the way NCAA basketball works. It'll be a totally different cast of characters on every team next year, so hard to carry over analysis. We did get this right. Now, the exact mechanics of Iowa and who they were going to lose to in the Elite Eight was not correct, but we did put out there, and it was maybe a little tricky for Iowa fans to navigate the show, our last episode, because we definitely had them beating Nebraska, lock it down. And then, Druzy kind of tried to go on a little, paying homage to Iowa in their next match. We had to cut them off and just say, look, we'd already talked about Iowa's win, and they're only getting one win. No more sugarcoating it for their fans. It's over, and it was over. But it was Illinois that really took them down. When we discussed Illinois and Houston, we did think it was going to be, toughness and defense versus elite scoring and scoring from a lot of different places. And we might have got that one wrong as far as who was going to win. I think we got it right with how the matchup would work. And Illinois they got a lot of offense, man. What do you think the Cougs and the Illini?
Yeah, I mean, this game comes down to, unfortunately for the Cougars, unfortunately for the Audible Angle, unfortunately, as it turns out, for Ryan Andrews and his legal team, and his episodes on the Audible Angle to an indeterminate amount of time. The Cougars just went cold, Dilly. They didn't make enough shots. I think that was kind of a similar end for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the tournament as well. When these teams, like the Badgers, like, the Cougars, now the Cougars were a little bit more dependent on their defense, and there was a lot of shots that were made. To your point, Illinois is an elite offensive team, which is why they'll see themselves playing on the final weekend of the year. Boy, oh boy. The Cougars just didn't put it together. I'm disappointed for Kelvin Sampson. I am. I think he's got a great career. He deserves more. Not sure if this might be it for him. I don't know. I'm sure he comes back, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen anything that says otherwise. But the Cougars just didn't play their game. And it was one of those things where, and I will give Druzy credit, the lines are very razor thin at this point in the tournament, and that was clear there that they just didn't have enough to stay with Illinois, and Illinois was playing with a chip on their shoulder. Their coach, Brad Underwood, he's got a chip, man. I think he thought he's been kind of overlooked for about the last 20 years until he got his sniff here at Illinois. He's making it count.
Yeah, I think if you would have just told us the score of the game was going to be 65-55, we probably would have chalked that up. Well, Houston got what they wanted. They slowed them down. The game, more possessions, less baskets, and less possessions, less scoring. You would have thought that was kind of their game script, but man, maybe we give a little bit to Illinois' defense as well. Houston, it's not like they totally got away from them. All their other games, that their victories are all, giving up 50, 60 points, and they just scored a couple more. So maybe Illinois' defense stepped up a little bit more. We're laying it on the offense, putting it on them. You already expressed your pick for the Final Four matchup. You got Yukon taking down Illinois. Is that lock that pick in?
Are you saying for this weekend?
Yeah. I mean, who's winning, Yukon or Illinois?
Ooh, I gotta tell you, it's hard to pick against Yukon, but it's just as equally hard to pick against the Illini. I think, to be honest, my heart says let's choose Illinois. Right, like they're kind of that nice story. They're not chalk. They're the lowest seeded remaining. Right, so my heart says Big Ten. My heart says we weren't wrong on Yukon. God dang it. We hope so, right, Druzy? Because we'd really like to have three guys on this show. We're hoping you're right that they were overrated. Hope that you were right that you don't like Dan Hurley and he's just too demonstrative. And you're talking about how he's just always after the referees. But Dilly, I'll be honest, I'm going Yukon here.
Yeah, I don't think at this point in the day, you just have to, Yukon has proven us wrong enough. They've done enough every year. They've been in these spots. And I think you'd be perhaps a little foolish at this point to think they're not going to be able to do it again. But I think it's an exciting game. Hey, it's the Final Four. They're supposed to be close matchups, although every once in a while you do get some Final Four games where you kind of regret rooting on that Cinderella. Let's say Iowa got past Illinois or something. You'd be like, kind of wish we would have gotten a better team through. It was fun while it lasted, but we don't have that problem on the other side of the bracket. Arizona handily took down our friends in the Big Ten. Purdue was don't. They didn't. Arizona, a team we've been high on all year for having just the right amount of big men, big dudes. They're able to shut down your guy, Smith. Smith, is that his name? Grandpa Smith. And just, was Purdue ever really in this game? Did it feel like the outcome was in the balance at all as you watched this matchup?
No, it didn't. It felt like this was an Arizona game from the tip. I do not, in any depth of my, which is, I mean, I've been told by many of female kind that I bring a lot of depth to relationships, but there is nothing in that depth that says I feel bad for Purdue. From their head coach, stop your smug looks, your I'm too good for the other guy looks, the absolute disdain that you show the zebras for doing their jobs very well, the look that says we were somehow wronged in this game. Thank you, basketball gods, for the bottom of my heart, that Braden Smith, that none of the NCAA basketball fans in the Big Ten, in the country at large, have to stomach another second of his gross ball handling, his unwielding jerkuffery. It's not fun to watch, Braden. It wasn't fun to watch. I don't care what you say, Boilermaker country. He's the nation's leader in assists all time because he played 38 years in the NCAAs. There are rules now in place because it's a Braden Smith. Thank you, Arizona Wildcats, for putting him to rest once and for all. We will not have to watch him because he will be playing in Croatia next year. That is the best he will do. Thank you, Wildcats. You didn't have a chance, Boilermakers.
Did the Wildcats lure the Boilermakers into a false sense of security by allowing them to take that 7-point lead into the halftime shower rooms? Did the Boilermakers? Did they think they were still in the game at that point, up 7, or did they know what was coming?
Dilly, let's be honest. You and I were standing there outside the locker room, and it was an audible, clear chuckle from the locker room of the Wildcats at halftime. It was an absolute, that's what we heard. And that wasn't just from one guy. That was the ball boy. That was the manager. And it trickled from the bottom all the way to the top. I mean, there were nurses, the team physician, that was walking out with a wry smile at halftime and be like, these guys have no idea that we have the best team in the tournament. And they showed it in the second half, Dilly. It was an audible laugh.
It was, maybe outside of Wildcat fans themselves that obviously knew what was going on with the ploy to allow Purdue to take a halftime lead into the bank. Viewers at large perhaps didn't even understand that was going to be what was happening. Michigan, they got a bye in the Elite Eight all the way to the Final Four. They played a very bad Tennessee team from a very bad conference who beat a very bad Virginia team to get there. To get to face Iowa State. And we're not really going to talk about Iowa State or really the Big 12 for that matter, because that was kind of a Druzy thing. Big 12, the fact that he convinced us that they were in the same breath as the Big 10. I mean, come on. I mean, we can't, reinvent the egg, We can't slice the bread diagonally at this point in the game, but we should have perhaps understood that whole Cougar thing, that whole thing. Arizona's pretty good, but these other teams, we were led astray. I don't know how you let Tennessee beat you. Tennessee earned their right to play Michigan. What do you think of Michigan running it up by 30-something odd points and dispatching us of Rocky Mountain High, Sweet Home Tennessee, whatever this old Rocky Bottom is what she used to call me? How do you like the matchup?
Well, this is Michigan doing Michigan things here this season. This is kind of a theme. If you remember going into that Badger game when Michigan was undefeated, they led the NCAAs, and I believe they finished the season with the highest win margin in the league. They were beating teams and they didn't stop pushing. I don't know if that is a function. I haven't looked close enough over the year, Dilly, and I probably should have taken a little time. I don't know if that's a function of taking guys out later or just having a deep bench. Let's assume that it's a deep bench. Let's assume that there weren't, this isn't the you should throw at the next batter in next series game as we get into the baseball season here. But I don't think there was any ill will there. But so this is Wolverines doing what Wolverines do in 2026 this season. They beat teams by a shitload, but it was a weak SEC. It was a surprise saw in that Tennessee was there. And Michigan basically flexed Big Ten muscle. I mean, we saw it. Big Ten had 8 teams in the Sweet 16. I mean, it's a strong conference. SEC wasn't. Michigan, yeah, they beat them by 33, probably deservingly so.
Arizona, Michigan. Is it time for the Big Ten to assert dominance for the first time since Michigan State in 100 years ago, whenever that was? is Michigan going to be able to take out Arizona? Saturday night, 8:49 tip. That's very real. If the first game is not over, they will march out Arizona and Michigan, and they will tip at 8:49 p.m., regardless of what's happening in the other games. So set your clock. Be ready to dive into the 1 seed versus the 1 seed.
Yeah, this is the chalk side of the bracket, Dilly. You kind of saw it as we went through here. Michigan had a fairly weak bracket. We saw it. Iowa State was one of those sniffers. We won't talk about the guy who's under a gag order right now, which we've talked a little bit about from the show. Arizona had a fairly simple ride itself. We were a little bit too high, thanks, Druzy, on the SEC in that top side. This game was going to be interesting. I do think this comes down to the big dudes again. I don't believe in Yaxel. I don't believe in him in big games. He's hidden in big games. He did have a good Elite Eight game. He absolutely did. He made a shot that he needed to make in some games during the tournament. But really, that's all he did overall, right? That's my view. Arizona has so many weapons and plays so fast and smooth. They've got enough to cover it, Dilly. It's going to come down to the big kid, the transfer from UCLA that plays for Michigan, the 7'4" guy. He's not strong enough. He's not good enough. Pete and the boys for Arizona are going to push him around. I do think that Michigan will be dangerous. If they catch fire from behind the 3, this could be a close game. I've been saying it all year. Arizona doesn't shoot enough threes. In the tournament, they have. In the tournament, they've shown that they can make threes, and they're willing to do so. They've got good guards, and they've shown it. They're a better team than Michigan. Great records going into this. 5 losses between the two of them. Arizona's better in the long term. They outlast them. Last 7 minutes of this game, I think Arizona pulls away kind of as they have through the second half of the season, and Arizona kind of marches on to see our friends Yukon in the final.
Irby, excluding the Big Ten from the championship game, I find it distasteful that we've come to this point. I'm not saying you're wrong right off the bat, but I am saying my matchup, my championship matchup, and this is breaking news, it's Illinois and Michigan. It's Illinois and Michigan. It's better conference. Arizona, shitty. Yukon, shitty. I like a little upset from Illinois. They got the offensive firepower. And I guess, and I'm wavering already a little bit on Michigan. We always said heading into the Sweet 16 was, they beat Howard. They beat St. Louis. Have they really shown us anything yet? They beat Alabama, who we liked, but wasn't exactly a powerhouse. And then they get Tennessee, not even supposed to be there. Not good. So maybe I'm second guessing a little bit because they didn't face a rough schedule. Neither did Arizona. I mean, they're the best team they played was, Utah State and Arkansas, obviously our teams. I'm going Michigan, Illinois. We'll see who's right. For the purposes of the show, let's just talk about whoever the champ is. Who's your champion? And we won't bottleneck ourselves with the exact matchup for this segment. Who you taking?
Dilly, first of all, before I tell you my national champion, I appreciate, because I was a little worried when you were going to do your choices there that you hadn't read the memo that came through as you were speaking there. Our legal team actually had sent over some notices that I wanted to make sure. Obviously you saw it, but I'll say it because they asked me to announce it. That legally we now have to cover all bases. Like, we now have to legally, because of what we're doing, they asked me to go one way and you go the other. It was a coin flip. We did it in our production meeting. It wasn't because Eric had to choose Michigan and Illinois. Yeah, right there. It's right there. So, I don't blame you for that. I think there's something to that. Michigan, Big Ten, I'll be honest. Big Ten, probably best conference in the country. Big Ten's best conference in the country. Arizona might be the best team, and that's why I'm choosing them. Arizona's going to win the national championship.
And Irby did bring up a good point. I thought we discussed not disclosing that to everybody. We were just going to make a policy change where we're just picking opposite. So we're always right. I mean, we're always right anyway, but just officially, because, a lot of the shorts, a lot of the videos are getting so much playback. And then we got this one is concluded, so we can talk a little bit more freely about it. We did get into a little hot water with legal and illegal sports books because we were influencing lines with our picks, and some of them were so good they thought perhaps we had influenced a player or coach or referee, and then also some of them were so bad and so obvious that we didn't believe them. You could tell we didn't believe in the Houston Cougars, yet we picked them, and that threw up some red flags too, where we influencing a betting line in one direction and then secretly cashing in big, which we won't disclose whether we did or not, on the backside after the big line movement after each Audible Angle episode. With all that being said, before we get to robo-umps and the start of the baseball season, I will just say the Michigan Wolverines get the Big Ten off to Schneid and will be your champion. I suggest that you still watch the games. And if you wake up Sunday morning and you have a different feeling, maybe the matchup's not what you thought, feel free to adjust your final pick, because you'd hate to pick a champion that loses on Saturday evening. So just record, put it in the comments after the fact. We accept that. We know that you were really thinking something different, and you can put that in the comments on today, tomorrow, Tuesday. You could wait till Tuesday and tell us who you think is going to win, and we'll give you some props because we believe you. We believe that you had the foresight, and you just forgot to put it out, put it on tape, as they say in the business. Irby, it's been fun talking NCAA hoops with you this year. I assume we'll do a little recap next week, but it's going to be brief. We're going to be moving on to things before, as I mentioned, robo-umps and baseball kicks off. A couple other primers. We are going to dig into the Masters. There's been some golf news, not a ton about actual players on the course in the last week. We just hope for all golfers, including amateurs, we hope the number one rule of golf is let's not get hurt out here today. It's also the number one rule of pickleball and any adult sports. But, we hope everybody's healthy and doing their best out there in the golf world, and we'll leave it at that. We are going to get into, we had another reason, and some might say this is the real reason. We had 2 or 3 U.S. men's national soccer team World Cup friendly warm-up episodes recorded, hyped. I'm wearing a bandana. Irby's no shirt. He's got body paint on. We're chanting Pochettino's name. We're besmirching old coaches. Where Bruce Arena is on the episode. He dials in. We had Landon Donovan. We had 2 versions of that episode, one with his new hair, one without. Bunch of hype material. They shit the bed. We're sweeping it under it's just a friendly rug. And Irby, any other thoughts other than sweeping that noise under the rug and saying it's not the World Cup till it's the World Cup, baby?
I agree. I concur. Book is closed until it ain't in June.
The only thing you can take away from this last week in World Cup international soccer is Turkey is entering the group. They won their playoffs / qualifiers, whatever version of the remaining games to be played were. So Turkey, welcome to losing your 3rd match of the World Cup to the United States, probably by a large margin. And basically the bench squad, because we'll win the first 2 matches, they'll just be playing loose and free and put 3 past whoever your keeper is. I'm pretty sure he's a bum.
Hey, Dave,
what other sports?
Dave, I don't know if you caught this. Something I want to throw out there. There is a local kid. His name is Esmir, and he comes out of Appleton. He's a young Bosnian national who lived in Appleton. Esmir was the winner. He was the kicker of that winning penalty kick in the shootout that got Bosnia over Italy. So he's kind of a cult favorite here in the Green Bay, the Fox Valley area. On those of us that are in the know, Esmir is a great player, has been for many years, didn't spend a lot of time here in the Valley in Wisconsin. He's been playing in the MLS for a while. He's a great player. He's been playing in Bosnia. They did oust Italy again. Is there a worse country right now in the last 8 years, the last 2 World Cups, than Italy? What?
I think it's 3 in a row now. I think it's 3 in a row World Cups missed. And did they win the World Cup before that? Did they win and then haven't been back in a generation? I mean, there's going to be fans that are mid-teenagers, they're teenage fans going into the next World Cup. They're going to think, man, are we ever going to get to a World Cup? It's like you won. They won the year you were born, buddy. They were the best in the world. People were like, their Premier League is better than the English Premier League and Syria, or it is Syria. Whoops. You know what I'm saying. They play a different style of soccer, very fragmented. Is that the right word? Very structurally sound, strategic soccer, and it is not working at this time at the national team level. They got good players in their league, like a gentleman named Pulisic and Weston McKennie, tearing up their league. Maybe that I don't know if that's good or bad now. That if we look at it, maybe that's not a good thing. That our boys are over there killing it.
7-2. That's what the U.S. has to show for it. A 5-goal differential in their final lead-up friendlies. Nice work.
In a slight defense, before we tease our Masters coverage, which will be hot and heavy, in our defense, we did, or lack of defense, as many will point out if they watch the soccer matches, we were adhering to the it's a friendly, sub everyone out. So some of those goals in the first match, it's not an excuse, but it was not, and it was all, you always want to win a friendly, you want to look good, you want to send your guys off with a lead, so then you can really say, well, it was 5-2, but we had the lead when it mattered. We didn't quite accomplish that, but we did use every single substitution, and, then you get into the guys are playing their way back from injury that weren't there, were pretty important pieces, blah, blah, blah. See you in June.
Be honest, Dilly, one last word on the World Cup. Props to the U.S. commentators to pivoting immediately, being like, I don't know how a team could even have any cohesiveness with Panchetta doing all of this subbing. Like, I just don't know how this could ever have worked out. It's 4-0, right? Like, and we're now subbing. So they quickly pivoted to blaming the manager for the poor play on the field. But I agree. I concur. National American commentators. It's a coach's fault.
Yeah, hey, we scored the first goal of the friendlies, and from that point on, we were just getting some cardio in out there, and the boys successfully got some cardio. We're going to do our best to probably pump out 3 Masters episodes, a little bit of guys you wouldn't think of, horses for courses, and of course your favorites. Hell, we should probably even cover the par 3 the day before. Whose grandchild is going to get a hole-in-one this year?
Hole-in-one.
Yeah, it's a big event. Irby, I've been hesitating a little bit. This is kind of like me getting into NCAA hoops late in the year. You wanted to talk Brewers baseball like 2 months ago. Some catcher, a bullpen catcher, reported to camp today. Irby wanted to break it down. We got baseball action. And I'm going to start off with the Robo-umps. Love them or hate them? Talk us through it.
I like it. Through 6 games, I like it. I think, Dilly, though, they can clean up the how it's used, right? Like I don't know if it needs to be all this pomp and circumstance. I think it can just be like a timeout from the ump. I don't know why he has to go over the loudspeaker and walk in front of the batter and kind of do a little dance and then everybody looks at the big screen and sees it all together. Like I think we as fans can figure that out on TV and live that, oh, the guy tapped his hat. Let's move on. I like it. I like the technology for being right. Here's why I lean towards saying dislike. With a tenth of an inch, the difference between a strike and a ball, no human's going to see it. So I think it is, in the end, it will be a thumbs down for me. But through 6 games, I'm okay with it. Let's see how it goes. It's a test anyway, right? Like we can probably take this out next year. But I don't like the ball call in the World Series when he taps his hat or the strike call by a tenth of an inch. Like that just seems silly.
Yeah, it's almost like some wily home team is going to get in there and make the lines on the TV box wider. Somehow they're going to make them this thick, and then now it's a strike. The box is a little thicker. They could have a limit. Hey, it's got to be an inch. It's got to be egregious. And they could just do, I guess the tenth of it, they could just do ball or strike. Show the ball. I don't know if the measurements really, it just kind of pisses you off, if anything.
I agree.
On how close it is. If, we generally want transparency in sports, this is one where I'll say this. If they are going to go this route, just put a little buzzer on the umpire's hip or whatever, a little clicker. He's still got to be there to make other calls. He's got to make a judgment call if a guy's thrown at a batter. There's other stuff for the ump to do. And if you're going to basically take away balls and strikes, like don't make it a strategic part of the game. Like, oh, am I going to challenge one in the second inning? Because I don't want, how many can they challenge? Just have it vibrate on the ump's hip if it's a strike, and he can still go Steve Reich and ball. And everybody just knows, hey, it's a computer-assisted strike zone. Let's, we don't have to make a show of it. I guess if the goal is always, it seems like, to speed up the game, maybe, I'm kind of joking because I don't think they would do that, but maybe they will. Maybe they will just say, you don't have to review. Everything's reviewed. Every goal is VAR assisted. Every ball and strike is VAR assisted. And let's just keep the game moving. It's fun, though. I will say the funometer right now is pretty high, especially, I forget his name now because we're live on the air broadcasting to the solar system. But the one dude just could not save himself. It was just like 6 in a row, 6 calls in the last inning or two were all overturned. And it's got a little hard to watch for that guy.
Yeah, I think at the end, I've got 2 good points here, Dilly. At least I think they're good, and probably put in the chat that you don't think it's good. Put in the comments. But number 1, I do think at the end of the day, we're not going to like this because it's going to lengthen the games, and it just it takes the human part of the game. I believe in all sports, I'm going to eventually be like, don't really care. Let's go back to the way it was in the 80s. I think that was better. Let's go back to the 90s when I was bitching about, well, it should have been a catch. No Cowboy fan's not going to agree with that because that was not a catch against the Packers. But anyway, what I will tell you, this second one, I don't know if you were watching the Brewer game, maybe not because of your location, but you can't get it on Brewers TV now, by the way. $100 for a year. Anyway, CB Buckner in their game last week. Yeah. Did you see that? Like, CB Buckner's looking at the nice looking girl in the first row. Like, he's not looking at the play, calls him safe because he didn't touch home plate. It wasn't close, bro. Like, if there's 100% surface area on the bottom of your cleat that can touch the base, 101% of his foot touched the white base. It wasn't close. Like, he should be suspended. He should be suspended for that horrendous call that he didn't touch first. Come on.
Speaking of horrendous calls, how about anybody that doubted the Milwaukee Brewers to start the year? How silly are Brewers doubters looking right now? And Can we bank it? Division champs, Irby? Too soon?
It is too soon, but I will tell you, I wouldn't doubt that the Brewers are leading for a good duration of April here. Like their schedule says that they will. They've got to play a Royals team who's decent right now. They start a little 3-game set. The Red Sox never really know who they are in the first part of the season. They could go 0-20 or 1-19 in the first part, and then the Nationals kind of are decent, but we could beat them, I suppose. We're at home. I think that the Brewers are for real. They're athletic. I like their roster. I like the new guys that they've brought in. I like Gary Sanchez again, swinging the rock as the swinging the lumber, if you will, in the DH spot. There's some things to be positive about. And Dilly, don't kid yourself. Don't forget, we're doing all of this without our best player, which is Jackson Churio. He's out now. He's not out for a long period of time, but our guys are our guys, man. And I think that, boy, 5-1 feels good. And hey, Cubs Nation, when everybody else picked you as no, it's a long season. We have to play 165 games or whatever. So, but I'll get a little jab in. 3-3 ain't looking good. You guys are looking up from the basement again, Cubbies. That big payroll ain't doing jack.
You got Pittsburgh is calling up a 18-year-old dude. They got Skeens. They got young talent. You got the Brewers have proven that you can hang in there and you can play competitive baseball. And this little big picture here, does any of this matter? And does MLB need a, it doesn't have to, you don't have to say small team, but do they need someone other than the Dodgers? Or the Yankees haven't done it lately, but if it's the Yankees, you might as well just call it the Dodgers. They're spending $1 billion. Do they need to get across the finish line with somebody other than the Dodgers soon here before people start saying it's fun? The Brewers are fun. Milwaukee beat the Cubs in the playoffs. The Blue Jays made it a ways, but is it just baseball is different in that you can't have 2 good pitchers and a couple good players. That can be fun, but in a series, when you get to the playoffs and you're just cycling through, 3 of the best pitchers in the world, handing off to the best bullpen in the world, what gives?
Yeah, to answer, there's a couple. That's a loaded question, by the way. But the answer to the question, yes, the Major League Baseball needs something other than the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Phillies. They need something other than that to make a splash. Now, in Brewers country, in the state of Wisconsin, I said it. We started this show during the beginning of the run for the Brewers last year, Dilly. This show spawned out of that excitement from the Brewers. The Brewers, don't forget, have won the last 3 Central Division titles. They've won their division 3 past seasons, and they just can't win. They've only won 1 wild card series in that. That was last year. And we all kind of knew when the Dodgers came knocking, Dodgers were not good in the regular season. Doesn't matter if they're good in the regular season. They just need to get to the postseason, and then they have 7 better pitchers than our first pitcher. 7 better pitchers than our first pitcher as a starting line. Our best pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers is Jacob Misiorowski, who will forget how to pitch for 3 to 4 innings every time he starts. We don't have, and then we've got Woodruff, who's been in the league as long as Braden Smith has played for the Purdue Boilermakers, which seems like 15 years. The Milwaukee Brewers will be a very good regular season team because of the manager. Pat Murphy knows how to manage his players. He can get them ready, but when the rubber meets the road, Dilly, the answer is this. Bernie Brewer can't help you anymore in the postseason. The Brewers don't have the horses. They don't have the deep pockets like the 5 teams that I said. They will win again. I mean, you've got the team spending on one player on the Dodgers side, $800 million which is basically the entire amount of money that the Brewers can spend on all of their players. It's not fair. Major League Baseball needs to do something about it. We talked about it in 2025 at the end of the season, and it needs to change. And it won't because there's too much money in it, but it should.
Irby, you were pretty good there with the top 5 teams listed. I think you had Boston in there, but they're down the list a little bit this year. I'm sure it's a short-term deal, and things can change during the season. But, I mean, if you get down to Detroit Tigers are the 10th highest spending team, $207 million, just going payroll, luxury tax stuff. I don't know how that all works, but, add a couple million on all teams for luxury tax projection. But in 10th place, you have Detroit Tigers, $200 million, and Dodgers, let's just be honest, it's $400 million. They're doubling up the 10th place team. You get down to the Brewers, where you'd expect them, kind of mid-range, $134 million. They're damn near tripled up by the Dodgers, and that's just kind of gross. Cubs are up there just burning cash for no reason. That's kind of funny. But if it's Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, and I was surprised the Blue Jays are up there so high too. They're sniffing $300 million, and then Phillies, again, close to $300 million. Then it's a $50 million or so drop off to the Braves, everybody else. And I am going to scroll down and Miami Marlins. They're still in Major League Baseball. $73 million. How the Twins got over $100 million is amazing, because they seem to be purposely, a lot of these bottom teams are just purposely purging. I don't know. It's not like, I don't know if it's worse or better than tanking in the NBA. That might be a totally different topic, but these teams aren't even you can't tank for draft picks. It's just they can't really compete unless they get 4 or 5 dynamic jackpot young guys that they have control over for a couple of years and make a run. Otherwise, it takes a great manager being in the middle range, basically the Brewers, and that's the only other formula. Like, you got to be good with personnel, you need a good manager, and you got to spend a bit of money, and then you can have some playoff runs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, public service notice to all of our listeners. If you are a Brewer fan, pay attention in 2026, because this team could look extraordinarily different next year. You've got young talent like Sal Frelick and Bryce Terang who are making a splash, right? Like, those two players are some of the best. I think Bryce Terang was playing for the U.S. team in the World Baseball Classic at second base. That says something. But he ain't going to be with the Brewers very long. Right? When he hits anywhere where his contract is near up, he's gone. He's leaving for the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Blue Jays. He's gone. So enjoy what you have. There's a lot to look forward to. Luis Rengifo, I think, is a solid team. Willie Contreras, who probably is around for one more year at catching, he's tearing the ball off, the cover off the ball. Christian Yelich is kind of reborn through 6 seasons. Love to see old Gary Sanchez tearing the cover off the ball too. Newbie David Hamilton is playing well. Don't forget about Woody. But we've got Joey Ortiz, by the way. He's growing a beard. You see Joey out there? He's got this big old beard, looking pretty good. There's a lot of guys here that won't be on the team, but man, it's kind of fun to watch this year. Public service notice, listeners, tune in. Enjoy the ride while we can, because we could be getting into the dark ages with the Brewers here, because they just can't compete.
Yeah, enjoy baseball in the summer. Enjoy the division races. And then when you get to the playoffs, it's got to be something magical. You need some magic. You need them to abandon the robo-ump just for the playoffs and have a pitcher that puts it 2 inches off the plate, but it's always called a strike when you're playing the Dodgers. You need to bring back the human element, give these underdogs a chance. It could be fun. I might have to get the Brewer package. I can watch more games. I don't think I want to invest much time watching the Twins, but hell, If they somehow win 5 in a row, I'll probably change my tune. Next up, not today, but next episode, we do have to do a little prep as we inch towards the NHL playoffs. You might have thought I was saying NBA there. We can do that too, but the NHL playoffs, one of my favorite playoffs to jump on the bandwagon for. We got the Wild, the Madness, just a little preview. The madness of the NHL playoffs is how they're set up. You got the 3 best teams, 3, 4, even the 4 best teams really are all going to be on one side of the bracket playing each other because they honor the conferences through the start of the playoffs. It's a little bit of a travesty. You're going to have the best matchups in the first and second round, at least in the West. We'll dig into that too. Hockey bandwagon's fun. Anything else to close out this episode, Herbie?
No, I think there's a lot to look forward to. Watch the boys over there in Milwaukee. That's kind of fun. Got some good stuff this weekend. Easter weekend, Dilly, celebrating with family.
Yeah, actually, we are doing a little something tomorrow. A little swing by for lunch with sister and some nephews and grand or great nephews, whatever you, nieces, whatever you call them when it's your nephews have kids and niece has a kid. Doing that, man, something else jumped in my head, but we'll just have to move on. Merry Christmas, Happy Easter. We'll see you soon.
See ya.